What if Itachi was actually evil and wanted to get Sasuke's eyes to acquire the Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan? Well, he would easily be able to do so, as he was really holding back a lot during the fight against Sasuke, and if he wanted to, he would eventually just take Sasuke's Sharingan and implant them on himself to awaken the EMS. The question is, what would Itachi be able to do with an EMS, and how powerful would he become? Well, the problem is that Itachi would die soon after the battle with Sasuke anyway because of his disease. After all, he was taking all types of medicine to stay alive long enough to fight Sasuke. But let's assume that immediately after Itachi gets his EMS, he infiltrates Konoha and captures Tsunade, forcing her to heal him. I'm pretty sure she would be able to figure something out, even if he would have to control her with a genjutsu or something. And as this is an evil Itachi we're talking about, who killed his family because he truly wanted to test his potential, I don't think this would be out of character. So now we have a healthy EMS Itachi. Let's try to ascertain the full capabilities of this hypothetical character. The first thing someone who acquires the EMS gains is simply more raw power. That's the case whenever the Uchiha feels deeper emotions, especially hatred, and progresses the Sharingan. We see that in the 5 Kage Summit, a base Sharingan Sasuke had a chakra more intense than heavy Sasuke with a curse mark level 2, meaning that the amp he got from his emotional state and the progression of the Sharingan was just massive. Also, we saw time and time again during that same arc that Sasuke was progressing the power of his EMS rather quickly whenever he felt hatred. As Karin said several times, usually after Sasuke's power spiked and his Susanoo evolved, that Sasuke's chakra has gotten even colder and that she barely recognizes his chakra anymore. I have to imagine that getting the EMS would amp your chakra like that, but turned up to 11. For instance, Madara just after acquiring the EMS fought an entire day against Hashirama, and it was actually implied that Madara was not only fighting Hashirama but an entire platoon of Senju shinobis, including Tobirama himself. After all, we see in the panel Madara appears defeated that there were plenty of people surrounding him, Tobirama included, and we never saw any other Uchihas for that fight. If Madara was actually able to fight the whole Senju clan for the entire day right after awakening his EMS, that would be an insane feat, but we can only assume as much. But it would be very cool if it did. But regardless, EMS Madara's strength speaks by itself. Just reread his fight against Hashirama to see how insane his chakra levels were. However, as we don't know MS Madara's capabilities very well, that's not really a good point of comparison between a Mangekyo to an Eternal Mangekyo. Sasuke is a much better character for that. EMS Sasuke fought Sage Kabuto, Jubi, Jubito, and Madara, insanely powerful opponents. His speed was relative to KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto because they were both fighting against Jubito and they appear to be contributing equally to the fight. I'm not saying he is faster, but they are certainly in the same ballpark. He can also be compared to him in strength as well. Sure, Naruto has more AP, but Sasuke has more hacks. Just imagine 5 Kage Summit Sasuke trying to fight any of those people I mentioned. Also, he wouldn't be able to compete against Sage Mode Naruto KCM2. And it's clear that Sasuke's chakra reserves increased exponentially after he got the EMS, because he went through the entire war spamming Susanoo, Amaterasu, Chidori, among other things, without ever second guessing himself if he should save chakra. MS Sasuke, on the other hand, during the 5 Kage Summit, had to be recharged by Zetsu when he was fighting Mei, and then by Karin prior to his fight against Danzo. Don't get me wrong, 5 Kage Summit Sasuke is pretty insane, but EMS Sasuke spammed his jutsus much more and never even came close to running out of chakra. When Sasuke got stabbed by Madara and almost died, it was still heavily implied that he had plenty of chakra left because he was attacking Madara without any reinforcements. After all, Sasuke Sasuke is not dumb enough to willingly engage in a fight against Madara with low chakra. Also, EMS Sasuke was never healed during the war arc. All the way since he left Obito's hideout until he was stabbed by Madara, no one used medical ninjutsu to fill up his chakra like Sakura did to Naruto many times during the war. It was only after Sasuke almost dies that Kabuto comes in and heals him, but the thing is, once he gets healed, he awakens his Rinnegan and then he essentially becomes other character in terms of strength, and that was the end of EMS Sasuke. But still, when we apply these boosts in power and chakra to an EMS Itachi, things just get crazy. People like to say that Itachi had really low stamina and chakra when he was in the Akatsuki and all that, but I kind of disagree with that statement. Of course, Itachi didn't have nearly as much chakra and stamina such as characters like Naruto, Kisame, Hashirama, and others, but he still had a decent amount. If you pay attention to Itachi's final fight against Sasuke, he used a lot of ninjutsu and genjutsu in that fight, and bear in mind, Itachi was half dead. Let's do a quick recap of the fight so I can prove that Itachi actually had a decent amount of chakra. First, Itachi and Sasuke used a ton of high-level genjutsu against each other, and then, well, Itachi used Tsukuyomi, which takes a lot of chakra. It's a very powerful jutsu. Sasuke breaks out of it, so then Itachi uses the fireball jutsu twice, which is not an insane jutsu, but still he had to sustain that fireball against Sasuke for quite some time, and then Itachi uses Amaterasu. And it's not like Itachi just launches a quick Amaterasu burst, he spams it. After Sasuke substitutes to avoid the Amaterasu damage, he uses Kirin, and Itachi blocks it with the Susanoo. At this point, heavy Sasuke runs out of chakra, while Itachi still had enough chakra to keep his corporeal full Susanoo up, which is a pretty good indicator that sick Itachi actually had more chakra than heavy Sasuke, so he just lasted longer in the fight, and I think that's a good show that Itachi actually had a decent amount of chakra, because no one ever says heavy Sasuke has low chakra reserves. Itachi then fights against Orochimaru with his completed Susanoo up, while Orochimaru uses his strongest jutsu against a sick Itachi. Itachi then stomps Orochimaru, and then he runs out of chakra and dies. That's a pretty decent chakra pull in my opinion. But if you slap the EMS on top of that, not only would he gain more intense chakra, which would boost everything, like his physical capabilities, his jutsu and all that, but he would also gain more chakra overall. And everyone knows that Itachi's main weakness was his stamina and chakra reserves. That's why Edo Itachi was his most powerful form, because he just neglected that. A healthy EMS Itachi would be close to that, as he would have much more chakra to use during a fight. Itachi's speed and reaction time would also increase immensely with the EMS, and Itachi was already extremely fast, being relative to KCM1 and being easily able to react to both Killer Bee and that same KCM1 Naruto. However, more importantly than that, how would Itachi's jutsus be affected when his Sharingan evolves to an EMS? Or naturally, now he wouldn't have the collateral eye damage caused by the MS abilities, and he would be able to just use them much more freely during fights. And it is also implied that the EMS abilities consume less chakra than when they were used by an MS. So yeah, Itachi would be able to spam Tsukuyomi. Just think about how broken this would be. Amaterasu is not bad at all either. Furthermore, these abilities would get just much stronger because now they're being used by an Eternal Mangekyo. He would be able to incinerate entire armies with Amaterasu, and I don't even know what a powered up Tsukuyomi cast by an EMS would look like. Of course, that's not all. Far from it, actually. His Susanoo would also undergo a transformation. Itachi's Perfect Susanoo would be insanely strong. Just by default, a Perfect Susanoo rivals the power of the Nine Tails, and I would actually argue that a Perfect Susanoo is more powerful than the Nine Tails. And that's essentially because a Perfect Susanoo can cut through mountains by casually unsheathing its sword. Just with the air pressure created by the speed of drawing the sword, they cut mountains without even landing a direct hit. If you go about using real physics to scale this feat, the Susanoo sword would have to move faster than the speed of light. It's pretty insane. Also, Madara's Perfect Susanoo made the 5 Kage, who are supposed to be the 5 strongest ninjas in the world, poop their pants. The defensive capabilities of the Perfect Susanoo are also insane. Madara's Perfect Susanoo, while not stabilized, casually tanked a Kyuubi Bijudama that Hashirama redirected with his wood golem. And Itachi would get all of that with his EMS. But that's not all, again. Far from it, actually. Itachi's Susanoo is special. It has features other Susanoos don't. The Totsuka Blade, a blade that can seal anyone it touches, and the Yata Mirror, a shield that can block literally any attack. These 2 weapons already made sick Itachi's Susanoo unbeatable according to Black Zetsu. So imagine them on a perfect, stabilized Susanoo. We know Kishimoto has drawn what Itachi's Perfect Susanoo would look like for the video game Storm 4, but naturally that is not canon. That Susanoo doesn't actually appear to be using the Totsuka Blade nor the Yata Mirror. It definitely doesn't have a shield, and the sword doesn't really look like the Totsuka Blade. But if Itachi got an EMS, I see no reason to believe that his Susanoo wouldn't be able to use both of these weapons. I also see no reason to believe those weapons wouldn't scale in size along with the Susanoo. After all, Itachi used a smaller version of the Totsuka Blade in the fight against Kabuto, so he appears to be able to control the size of the weapons, and he would most definitely make them large enough to be wielded by the Perfect Susanoo effectively. So what Itachi would have is a Perfect Susanoo that can cut through mountains, wielding a gigantic sword that literally one-shots everyone it touches, and a shield that can block literally any attack. Sounds pretty balanced to me. And on top of all these enhancements in power and the new abilities Itachi would get with his EMS, he would still retain his intellect and battle IQ, which are easily among the most impressive in the series. This Itachi would be a rival for characters like Prime, Alive, Hashirama, and Madara, or even Edo Madara. If Itachi were to get his EMS after the fight against Sasuke and found a way to heal himself from the sickness, he could literally solo Shippuden at that point. The strongest living character by the time Itachi and Sasuke fought was Obito, and Itachi would kinda no-diff him. So yeah, EMS Itachi would be extremely OP. Subscribe if you want to see more videos like this in the future, and like this video if you like Itachi, and also because you helped me out a lot by doing so as well. Thanks for watching.